rebels and renegades, welcome back to the Rogue Country podcast. It's episode 70, and I did not mean to be missing for so long. God damn. Where to begin? It's been a crazy 5 months. We welcomed my baby boy Wyatt to the world, who was born on the 26th of May, and I was lucky in the fact I got to talk to Jesse Daniel and Roseanne Reed before Wyatt was born. And it was funny because it was the same week I was talking to Roseanne Reed about being a parent and being a musician that Wyatt decided to come early and bless us with his presence. So it's been a crazy one, and I'm so sorry to everyone who was meant to be on this podcast or have a review or do something for Rogue Country in the last 5 months. It's been absolutely hectic. I wouldn't have changed any of it for the world because being with my baby boy has been the absolute best, but it has been awesome to get back into the saddle for the podcast and record a banger of an episode for you today. But before we begin, let's get into this episode's sponsor. Today we are brought to you by Pick Print Screen Printing. They're a Liverpool-based family-run hand screen printing company, and I love these guys. They do my t-shirts, they do the Rogue Country t-shirts, they do Josh Bettis' t-shirts. So if you need band merch, workwear, business uniforms, club or sports team wears, or apparel lines, please get in touch with them. They use eco-friendly inks. It's all done by hand, and they're just an incredible company to work with. I love them, and you should go support them. So that was our sponsor. Go check them out if you need any of your merchandise done. Like I said, it's been a crazy 5 months. Wyatt was born. I've been dealing with becoming a dad for the first time, and it's been crazy. But if that wasn't stressful enough, I decided to make it even more stressful for myself and book not one, but 2 tours in for this year, as well as a gig with Tommy Prine. Now, if you were a Rogue Country fan in August, if you were a country fan in August, I hope you had the time of your life. Jesse Daniel came over to the UK. The tours was an absolute success. Every show was incredible. London sold out so much that we had to do an extra date. Josh Bettis killed it in the opening act. Tommy Prine came over at the end of August. It was phenomenal. We laughed, we cried, we went on a journey. He is a phenomenal songwriter, and I cannot wait for Jesse Daniel and Tommy Prine to be back. But we've got focusing on the future, because this week, this very same week that this podcast is being released, on Monday, the 13th of November, we are bringing Summer Dean over, starting on the 16th of November at Hangar 18 in Swansea. Then we're in Nottingham on the 17th of November at the Old Cold Store. On the 18th of November, we're in Wirral. We were meant to be at the Swinging On where Jesse Daniel and Tommy Prine played, but it sold so well we've had to move venue to Gallagher's. It's only a 3-minute walk away from the Swinging Arm. Then on the 19th of November, we're at Bradford in the Underground. On the 20th of November, it's London at the Black Heart. Summer Dean is going to be incredible at all these shows. Ags Connolly is the special guest for every single gig, but we wanted to share the Rogue love. So on the 17th of November in Nottingham, Cold Hands is opening. On the 18th of November in Wirral, Brandon Ridley is opening. On the 19th of November in Bradford, Banjo Jen is opening. And on the 20th of November in London, My Crooked Teeth is opening. These are incredible artists who deserve this opportunity. We're so happy to be able to give it to them and share the Rogue love. Thank you so much to Ags and Summer Dean for allowing us to put these artists on for a little 20-minute set, just because we know that this crowd is going to love these artists, and we couldn't be happier that we've managed to make this all possible. So get your tickets now. It is this week Summer Dean is coming over to the UK. It is phenomenal. It's finally happened. I'm so excited for it to finally be here. I cannot wait for Birkenhead so I get to see it all live. It's just going to be an absolutely amazing experience. Then I get to rest for the rest of the year, and I'm hyped about that as well. But Summer Dean is on the podcast today because obviously we had to have her on before she came over. So without further ado, this is episode 70 of the Rogue Country podcast with Mike West and Summer Dean. Yeah, how's it going? You've just come back from Australia, haven't you?
Yeah, I did. I got back a few weeks ago, and the schedule was pretty wild. And honestly, I was probably too tired when I got back. I haven't been that pushed eyes in a while. I mean, the schedule of a touring artist is pretty grueling, but that was 10 days, 8 flights, and 7-ish shows. And so it was crazy. I didn't get to see anything Australia,
Really?
I saw the hotel and the airport and the venues. The people were amazing and the musicians were amazing. But next time I go, I'm going to have to schedule some more time so that I can actually be there and visit,
No, totally. And like Australia, it's big in a way that's different to how big America is. Like Australia, it doesn't feel as drivable. It seems that there's just like a no man's land in the middle of Australia. So you have to
Yeah.
kind of get flights to connect everywhere.
I want to get to that no man's land. Yeah, and I think it was really interesting that people over there, they would stand in the merch booth for a long time, or stay in the line. And then they'd get up there and they would it was the cutest thing. They would just list things in Texas, like Billy Bob's, the Alamo. I'm like, yeah, these are all things. And this one lady said, I have a cousin in Minnesota. Do you think you know him? I'm like, oh, no. No, I don't. That's worlds away, but it's just interesting, the perspective, but yeah, it was crazy being on another hemisphere on the other earth.
Yeah.
It was wild. Yet the same thing,
Yeah.
just playing country music for good folk,
And was this
UK?
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be amazing. It was Australia your first kind of tour outside of the US with your solo stuff?
I mean, I've traveled, but not for music. Yeah, so that was my first international music thing.
Yeah, and like you said, like you're still playing country music. Was the reaction in Australia different to say how it is in Texas or anywhere in the States that you've played?
Yeah, well, just around the States, the reaction is different. Some places the culture is to dance, and then how they dance is different. Some places the culture is to stand and listen. Some places the culture is to party, and it's venue to venue too. Over there were not many dancers, except for Melbourne. There's a scene that's building in Melbourne,
really,
music scene, and people were dancing, and that's where I hired an Australian band, and just in Melbourne, and they were great. So Melbourne has quite the scene coming, but yeah, most of the time they were listeners. I wouldn't expect it to be a two-stepping place, but there it is in Melbourne.
Yeah.
So
no, wait, and with the band that you had in Australia, did you have much time to rehearse with them prior to the show, or?
We had one rehearsal, but they were really ready. We had a conversation. I sent them a bunch of charts and some recordings of our live show and things like that. And then we had a good conversation about the difference from the recordings and how the live show works. But man, I showed up and they were ready. They knew the songs. All I had to do, there wasn't a steel player in the band over there. And I've never played without a steel player. So there was a little bit of interesting arrangements to do, but that's it. They were wonderful pickers and even better humans.
Oh,
so
amazing.
It was great.
Cool. And have you been over to the UK? I know you said you've traveled. Have you been over to the UK before?
Yeah. Yeah. I've been to London. I haven't been like out past the touristy stuff as much, but yes, I've been over there and in other places in Europe.
Cool. And what was your impression as kind of the tourist's perspective to the UK? Because I think it'll be slightly different to how like a musician kind of perceives when they go on tour and see different places.
Yeah, every time I've been to Europe, especially the UK, I'm just usually taken aback of how old everything is in a good way.
Yeah.
How you guys seem to recycle your buildings and your communities much better than we do. I think we tend to like tear it down and rebuild. And I've noticed you guys, it's just how beautiful and old everything is. It makes me feel like a really young country over here. And we are.
Yeah.
So that's one of my favorite things over there is the uniqueness of just how old everything is, but it's still completely functional.
Yeah.
And mentality over here, we just don't have anything that old. It's amazing.
And with kind of, I don't really know that much about Texas and think what's kind of the oldest thing in Texas? Because obviously there's kind of like the Alamo, there's things like that. Is that probably one of the oldest things in Texas, or?
I would say along with some of our Native American ruins and are some of our oldest cultures. Well, that's in humanity, but, and then, it also depends on what part of Fort Worth you're in, or Texas. If you're further south, you're going to have a lot more of the Mexican culture that was here before Texas, Texas. And then in the northern, we've got a lot of more of the cattle drive, like the Chisholm Trail stopped right here in Fort Worth. And there's a lot of the stockyards here in Fort Worth are built around that stop. And a lot of the original buildings and like the world's first indoor rodeo Coliseum, and we're still doing rodeos there. So, I mean, it kind of depends on what part of Texas you're in. I would think that UK is kind of like that. It seems like one big unit, and it is, but it's also very diverse according to where you are and what's settled in that region.
Yeah, no, totally. Even, around here in Wallasey, like this house is it was built in 1900, which is similar to most houses here. But then you walk past like one street and there's one cottage that's from like the 1600s, and it's just kind of there. And that's the only thing there that's that old, and everything else is kind of from the 1900s. It's weird how old stuff just kind of like blends in and pops up in different places, and you don't really suspect it.
Yeah, very cool. 1600s, cool.
Yeah, it's crazy. But with coming over to the UK, obviously it's a solo tour as opposed to kind of your band because obviously the new album, The Biggest Life, is a lot more intimate. It's a lot more songwriting and lyrical. Is this kind of something you're looking forward to in showcasing these songs in a solo way? Have you kind of done anything to prepare for that, or anything in your head to kind of differentiate from the band sound?
Well, I like playing solo shows. Banter and humor and talking is a big part. Comedy is a big part of my solo set and the band set. But, it's two different animals. When we're with the band, it's a completely different show than solo. It's different songs, different jokes, different banter, different everything, a different vibe. They're both, I try to make them both as entertaining as I can. But, I'm looking forward to the solo shows. I get to really connect with the audience, and I would love to bring my band over, but I think it's wise for my first time to come over there to get to know everybody, get to know some people, figure out how this works, and then I'll bring the dudes back.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely the way to go. I think because it's the same thing we did with Jesse Daniel, where it's a weird kind of to talk finances and things, but it is expensive to bring like a lot of people over, and to have this kind of solo set, and it creates a unique perspective that when you come back with the band, people will be like, well, I saw a solo in 2023. It's going to be one of those trump cards that people are going to be pulling out, and it's going to be just an interesting performance that we absolutely cannot wait to bring over.
I'm grateful for you guys. You've done a great job promoting.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's been a hectic year, but I know when this tour lands next week, it's just going to be so worth it. I'm so hyped for it. Meeting you in Birkenhead.
Good. I mean, it'll be badass.
Yeah. And with kind of The Biggest Life, that's a new record. How?
I just saw Beans back here. I saw him over my shoulder. Yeah. That's funny.
I think, did you just see? Yep. I've got Alice and Cooper, two cats running around at the moment. Alice just popped her head up behind me. I don't know.
Alice and Cooper. Great.
I don't know where she's gone.
That's funny. This is Beans' day spot.
How long have you had Beans?
I just got him during the pandemic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's pretty comfortable. Looks like. Hey, look. Anyway, back to business.
Yeah, with kind of The Biggest Life, obviously it's been out a while now. How have you felt the reaction, the reception's been to it from like Bad Romantic and Unladylike that you released in 2016? Because it's a phenomenal record, and everything, like anyone I've spoken to who's listened to it has said it's the fucking best record they've heard like this year.
Wow, thank you. Yeah, it's crazy how fast records are old.
Yeah,
put it out, and it feels like I'm late on my next one. I'm proud of The Biggest Life. Unladylike, I didn't even have I wasn't thinking about that one. I just put my songs on an album and put it out. I didn't even know how to do. I don't know how to do any of it. And then with Bad Romantic, I feel like I was coming out with my fist in the air with something to say, and like, this is honky tonk music and blah, blah. And I feel like with The Biggest Life, I just kind of sat down and played you some of my songs. Yeah. And I feel like I've matured in that move and matured in my writing. And when a writer and a producer like Bruce Robinson emails you and says, we like your songs, what do you think about making a record? Then you just say yes.
Yeah.
Say yes. He's one of the best Texas songwriters that we have. And so that was quite the treat, and it was recorded completely analog. No computers ever used. So with this kind of album being out, I think it's perfect to do these acoustic tours, because the main driving force making The Biggest Life was the lyrics and the stories. And you can't really convey that with the full band, because you're trying to reach a different kind of climax for the show. And so for the solo shows, I get to deliver what the record delivered. I had to do a little different preparing, like with the band. Some of the songs I don't play the guitar, just kind of sing. And so I know that if I need to have some of those songs worked up for me playing them, and I don't play them on stage. I mean, I just sing them on stage, but I want to be able, if anybody has requests or anything like that, I want to be able to play anything they throw. So I do a little prep like that. Just making sure all the songs are arranged right acoustically and that I can play them. I write, and then I take them to the studio, and they become something else. And sometimes even after that, I can't play them anymore, because I wrote it, but they become a whole nother thing. So I have to go back and learn my own songs a lot.
Is that kind of, you said with like lyrically it's matured, was there anything in the thought process or anything in your life that kind of led you to this kind of maturity in these lyrics for the album, that kind of things either kind of clicked in place, or you had a thought process where it kind of crystallized what you were singing about or what you wanted to sing about?
They say write about what you know. And so I don't write a lot of love songs. I don't write a lot of like man-hating songs, like you cheated on me, so I'm gonna key your truck or whatever. I don't burn your house down. I don't have a lot of experience with those emotions, and so I don't write a lot from that perspective. But I do have the perspective of independence as a woman in her 40s. And sometimes that's lonely, and sometimes that's really prideful. And I write from both those perspectives. I write from the perspective of having to pick yourself up, and there's nobody else to pick you up, so you got to do it yourself, and I write from the perspective of inadvertently putting country music before anything else in my life, almost. And those are just those are things that are in my heart and in my head. So that's what you write about. Sometimes I take that feeling and then write a fiction story about that. It's really fiction, or what's it called? Whatever. It's fiction, but based on but it could be, I don't know, whatever, who cares? But, I take a little more drama to it in the songwriting than what's really happening in real life, but that's the art of it. Yeah. I just write about what I know.
Yeah.
And it's been really interesting, the reactions from some of the really sad songs on the album. It's been interesting. There's men and women that come up crying and relating to it all the time. And that makes me feel good. And then, I always try to get a little wit and a wry turn of phrase and some humor, and because such is life, I think there was one review that had a little criticism, like a critique, that the album didn't really tell a story from like sad to happy or whatever. It didn't arc. It just like this in emotions. And I was like, well, that's life.
Yeah, that's
man.
true. It's a life then. Yeah.
In one day, you could have so many things happen that you're emotionally all over the place about. So I just kept it I just kept it as real as I could keep it.
Yeah. No, I think that makes the most sense, and it's weird to kind of see that as a critique because, you know, it would make sense if you were viewing an artist's kind of catalog in its entirety in a 50 career span. Like if you were looking at Johnny Cash's or Springsteen's to say, well, this album goes from happy to sad, and then the next album goes from sad to happy. But, you know, a lot of artists, especially independent artists, you may only get 1 or 2 albums to tell your entire story, and you want to create an album that does tell your life as like the biggest part. So you do need to kind of have those ebbs and flows, and it doesn't necessarily mean it goes from one end of the spectrum to the other. It can kind of fluctuate in between those things. And I think that's what your album does really, really well.
Yeah, there's a lot of juggling that goes into album order. It's a funny thing. It's not thought about by the listener very much. But sometimes that's designed.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think about it necessarily when we're recording. I do look at all my songs and we pluck the best ones, but the best ones can be based on how I'm singing them or how they go with the other ones. And then with song order, you do think about tempos and the keys that they're in. And you also think about the storyline. And so there's a lot of tiny factors that go into song order.
Yeah.
In an album. Sometimes it's a story and the whole thing, you know, but that's always that's a fun part to me. That's when it's like you've painted all these pieces and you're putting it together. It's like the Lego, you put them all together, then you're finally seeing it coming in. It's one big thing. Yeah. It's pretty cool. But yeah, the song order is unique.
Yeah.
On The Biggest Lie.
No, definitely. And with kind of obviously Big Old Truck opens the album. So that was kind of intentional for me, kind of the last verse. You talking about independence and defiance. It's like, it's just like me to think I need a big old truck, but I'm just going to start walking. And it's that kind of, you think you need X, but if you have your own steam and you have your own motivation, you can just go.
Yeah. I literally visualized sitting on the front steps thinking, you know, I'm going to get out of this pity party and I'm just going to get up, you know, but we also put that first because it's acoustic. And so I wanted the listener to know right away, oh, this is a listener's album, you know, and then be surprised when it lifts up, but it's going to come back down every time. And so, I wanted an acoustic song first. A lot of times when you pop in with album with a big song, which is great, some of you, maybe your slower, more listening songs kind of get jumped over and not listened to us because you're keep chasing that first high. And so, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to kind of come in slowly. And so whatever, that's all fun to think about. I'm glad you're reminding me of all that because I hadn't thought about it. It's cool.
Yeah, no, I like because I put my own records out as well. And the like track order is something that I do really like sweat over for a long time and try and mix things up. Like I'm working on a follow-up album at the moment and I've kind of got the track order ready to go, like how I want it to kind of go, because it is one of those important things. And I especially think in this day and age of digital streaming, it's even more important because a lot of people will just kind of jump to singles and playlists. But for those people who really give a fuck, it's just another level of paying attention to those guys and like letting them know that you're putting that level of thought into that. They want to put that level of thought into it as well. And you want to build that journey for them.
Yeah, you're right. You've got to think about the singles and how they're going to pop, and then the order and how they're going to pop. All the different listeners, the listeners that listen digitally and the listeners that listen analog, and the mixing and how that's going to work for everybody. And but that's all fun to think about to me.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
And with kind of the songwriting, obviously Bad Romantic came out in 21. So those songs were kind of written pre-pandemic. With the songs on The Biggest Life, did you have some of those kind of sat for a while, or were they kind of written during lockdown and more recent, or was it a mix and match?
Yeah, both. Some of the songs on there, let's see. Yeah, some of the songs on there, man, I wrote back in like 2015 and brought them back out and zhuzhed them up, rewrote some things on them, just because I write a song a week. And every Wednesday by midnight, I have another song that I write and turn into this group. And so that has caused me to write a whole bunch of songs. They are not all good. They are not all good. but they are all complete. And so that made me go back into my phone and get a lot of songs that were halfway written or kind of crappy songs and redo them and pick them up, or actually finally finish out some of those ideas that you have floating around in your phone and your voice memos all the time. And so there were a whole lot of songs to pick from, but I would say the majority I wrote in the last couple of years. But yeah, like I write all the song. I wrote all the time. I wrote one last night called Mailbox Money. So it's just you kind of look at, and some of the songs that I've written I love, but they didn't really fit this album. So they'll make another album one day, but it's kind of piecing together. And there's a lot to say in what songs make the final cut too.
And with that song a week, obviously that's a really disciplined thing. I know a lot of people would struggle with that. What's your kind of process, what's your process in getting that song a week done? Does it start lyrics first, melody or chorus or guitar parts? Like, is there a set way you do it?
Yeah, we're given a word, and the word is there. It's different every week, and the word is there to help you. You your song, or you can just help you think about something, or you can not use it at all. It's just there if you have no thoughts. It's been a crazy week and you're not connecting to anything. It's just there to help you if you want it. And like a lot of times the word has made me think of something, which made me think of something, and then I wrote a song about that. But most of the time it's almost different every time. But sometimes I have a melody and I'm just kind of snapping and singing something. I'm like, I want to write something like this. Or sometimes I've got a story in mind or a hook, and I'm like, okay, let me build it around this. Or sometimes I'll just find a pretty little strumming pattern and be like, oh, that's nice. What fits with this? And it's all even phonetically, it's got to fit with the melody, and so it's kind of different every time. And sometimes I have no ideas and I'm just making it up. I'm putting all the formulas together and turning it in, but I've done it for 2.5 years now. So it's a lot. That's a lot of songs.
That is, bloody hell.
Yeah.
And with that writing, is it all kind of falling into the country genre, or do we have like a Summer Dean hip hop album and a Summer Dean death metal album that we don't know about?
No, but I love the idea of a death metal album. I honestly, like, that'd be crazy and awesome. But that's funny you say that. Like, of course, naturally, I like to write a sad country song. That's what I like to write. That's my wheelhouse, I've been challenging myself to do other things. I've been trying to write more on the piano, and I've been trying, like, artistically, I think I listen to a lot of divas. I listen to Adele and Lizzo, and they give me a lot of ideas as far as the mentality of a song. Even like Cardi B, like just the mentality of a song can get me going on wanting to write something else that's different, and a little more Linda, a little less Loretta. What I've been feeling lately. My problem is I don't know how to play those things. I don't know how to play the piano like that, and I don't know how to play the guitar like that. So a lot of my demos right now are a lot of like, like I'm singing what I want to happen, but I know I can take that to my players and we can figure it out, So I'll write a song. It's technically complete. I know that my demo is not how I want it to turn out, but I'll take it to the guys and we start jamming and we build a funk and we build a groove, and then I'll kind of tweak the lyrics all right there and the song comes together. So that's what I'm hoping my next album will be. But I don't have, it's still going to be country because I can't help that. But in my mind, it's not traditional. It may be for mainstream considered really country, but in my mind, it won't be, Like in my mind, Linda Ronstadt is not country music. But a lot of people will say that she is. So who cares anymore anyway, But what it is. Who cares what it is and what it is? It's a moot point. It's a movable target. So
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, I'm hoping the next album comes out a little more funkier, crosses over in that genre a little bit. But I know all it is conceptual in my brain. I don't have my producer yet. I don't have his timeline. I don't have the studio. I don't have any of that yet. So we'll see. I like to work with. I just think I got to get the cojones to reach out to them because they're so great. I'm like, oh, they won't work with a little artist like me, but you never know, I guess.
Yeah, all you have to do is ask, and you've got kind of the back catalog and the talent and the incredible songs to back it up. So I don't know anyone who wouldn't want to work with you.
It takes money. It takes lots of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with albums, I read that you had like a 3-year or 3-album plan of a rocker album, a songwriter album, and a covers album. Is that kind of still the trajectory? And then you want to add like a funk album in?
Yeah, I just thought that the Bangers album was going to be first, and the Powerhouse Bangers album, but that's not the producer that called. So we put out the writer. Yeah, I want to work to the point where I don't have to think about career moves with my album, and I just put out what I want. Yeah. And like I feel like Coulter has done that. Coulter has put out. He's got himself to be such a big deal. He could put out a rap album right now and people will be like, oh, cool. Coulter put out a new album, And I want to get to that point so that I can shine a flashlight on the kind of music that I absolutely love, which is traditional dancehall country music. Donnie Bush, Connie Smith, and Ray Price. That's my favorite kind of music. But unfortunately, it's not the kind of music that moves the needle. It's not the music that labels and managers want to throw money at because it sells a lot of tickets. And so I have to think like, okay, that's what I really want to do. So I got to play this game and I got to put out good albums that people will buy tickets to, and then do what I want.
Yeah.
I want to do all the songs. I want to make sure I don't word that the wrong way, but you got to, this is a business.
Yeah.
And you can be really proud of your art, but you got to do the right business. It's like owning a store. You can't sell everything you love. You have to sell the stuff that sells.
Yeah. No, totally.
And, things you love in that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's one of those hard things where I think the biggest kind of distillation for me is like tattoo artists, because they obviously are tattoo artists. They are artists. They create art, but it has to be sellable and it has to be someone wants to buy it and wear it on their skin. And that's where a lot of compromise comes in. And that's where I think a lot of musicians draw the line, is they don't want to compromise, but then they also wonder why they aren't really getting anywhere and no one's paying attention to them.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's okay. It's okay if you don't want to compromise, but just know you're making a choice. Just this morning, there were some girls staying at the house, Sophia Johnson and George Parker. And Sophia worked her ass off, played 35 gigs a month, just played gig, money. And her and her husband were able to buy a house.
Yeah.
So she's like, I took gigs only based on what it paid.
Yeah.
And it didn't get my career anywhere, but now I own a home. She goes, so now I feel good, and now I'm going to chase things that are a little better for my career. And so it's just business choices, and I think that's the difference in a lot. That's why you go out and you see really good musicians at whatever bar, and you're like, how are these people not a big deal? They're so good. And talent doesn't have everything to do with it. Yes, you have to be good, but you got to have the right brain and the right timing, and it's crazy. And who knows? And then, but if there was one way to do it, we'd all be doing it,
Exactly.
So who knows what the formula really is,
Yeah, it's one of those crazy things. And I think it is where you get to a point as an artist to be like, what artist you want to be and what you kind of want to do. Like, I'm of no illusion, I'm never going to be huge. And I just take the gigs that I find fun and interesting. And this year's been really kind of a spotlight for me, because I've obviously, with the birth of my son, I've been like, I'm not doing shit, which I made that as like a personal choice, but I know a lot of artists can't do that. And it's like, well, I need to tour, I need to do this. And a lot of people would have to miss a lot of things. And it's one of those things where it is always a give and take and a compromise. and artists always have to kind of sit themselves down before that process and during that process, where you can be a bit jealous or envious of where another artist is, but it's like, well, the choices you have made have put you on this road and that artist is on that road, and you can't compare journeys. It's a really weird thing, but a lot of people can't have that self-awareness or separation sometimes.
Yeah, and realizing that everything phases. Like, it can be this can be someone else's time right now.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Your time will, but that doesn't mean that we don't have to remind ourselves of that all the time.
Yeah.
Especially social media. Like, man, you can make things look really great on social media and but you can't compare anything. You got to just keep going and be proud of yourself and keep your head down,
Yeah.
Keep your head down, grounded.
Yeah. No, totally. And that's where obviously kind of your albums have come through with these stories and things. But going back before kind of The Biggest Life, Bad Romantic, Unladylike, what was the kind of decision to pursue music full time? I've read some things where it was like you didn't want to turn 40 and be unhappy and you wanted to kind of do what you loved. Was that just the main driving force of like being self-aware and looking around at your life and going, we need to change?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't why should I do this? It was why shouldn't I?
Yeah.
Tammy, why not? Just go for it. The worst that's going to happen is nothing. My brother said something to me a long time ago, one of those really simple but profound things that helps me make decisions, helps me jumpstart things all the time. He said, Summer, there's people in this world that do things and people that don't. And so what are you going to be? And sometimes I choose not. Oh, I don't think I'm not going to do this one. Oh, I am going to go for this. I just go for it because you got to think about the worst that's going to happen is that it won't work. And if it doesn't work, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'll figure something else. The scariest part of like going full-time music was that I was raised right. I was raised that you have savings and that you have your insurance and your 401k and all of whatever's. And knowing as a independent artist, I wasn't going to have any of those things. That was the hardest thing to do, making the decision. It wasn't the art because I'm not scared to fail. It was the security, letting go of the security. But I just didn't, there's no way I could have kept teaching school and be happy and wondering if I could have done something else. I thought I can always go back. It's going to be fine. Let's go for it, and definitely not afraid of hard work. Yeah. So I didn't have a husband or kids that are depending on me. Yeah. So I thought, well, now's the time. Let's roll. If I did have a husband and kids depending on me, then I don't know if I would have made the same decision. But look how that works out. Who knows?
Yeah. And what was kind of the biggest learning curve or the biggest thing that like you realized or you hadn't thought of when you started kind of taking that change and becoming a musician full time?
It's amazing what you don't need. It's pretty amazing what you don't need, spending money and things like that. And it also, I had to take a look at, it was hard to put things on my credit card, and it was hard to put so much trust in other people because it was my livelihood that was in their hands, that my eggs in their basket, and that was really hard. That still is really hard. But I talked to a lot of business people, motivational type business people, and they always say, like, every business, no matter what, has leverage somewhere. You've got a benefactor, you've got a board of trustees, you've got a credit card, you've got something that you're leveraged on when you start. And so that helped me understand that this is normal and it's all right. And you just, it's going to work out. You just have to trust and work hard and be resourceful and be frugal. Take care of the people around you so that they take care of you. And it's just a wild way to exist. Certainly than Me in my 30s, for sure. So 2023. It is pretty crazy. I can just hold this tiny thing in my hand and talk to somebody in another country.
It's nuts, isn't it? It's so
yeah.
good. It's one of the good things about the internet.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not stoned, but when I get those thoughts like a stoner of like, it's so crazy. I can use my thumbs and talk to somebody in Australia.
Yeah.
You know? Anyway.
Yeah. No, it's been like the internet's just been the best and worst thing for music ever because, it has completely devalued it, but it's also gives so many new opportunities to people where, someone in the world can have a crazy idea to be like, what if Summer Dean came to the UK and then a couple of emails later can actually happen? It's wild.
Wild. It is. And it's also made it a whole different game. This is a whole different game now than what it used to be.
No, and with kind of technology and the production side of the albums, what was the kind of difference between Bad Romantic and The Biggest Life in terms of production or even kind of band or instrumentation? Was there much of a change, or was there a conscious change between the two?
Well, The Biggest Life is analog. They were both done with a lot of vintage equipment to try to get sounds and chase tones out of instruments and vocals. But the biggest difference between the two albums is that Biggest Life is analog. When there's nothing wrong with using Pro Tools to make a record. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just using a computer. It doesn't matter. It's like writing. To me, it's the difference of writing a letter handwritten or writing or typing it out. Whatever I say. But where the difference is as far as making the record, which was a wonderful experience, is when you have Pro Tools, you have just an infinite amount of choices and space to do whatever you want and change whatever you want, add whatever effects you want, fix anything you want to fix. But when it's analog, that's it. You've got 15 channels. You got four reels of tape to fill up, and that's it. So you got to really contain your momentum. You can't, get everybody in the studio, start to drinking, you start just bullshitting, and out comes whatever comes out. You don't have time for any of that. And you have to be okay with not being perfect. And you kind of let the vibes go, but they have to be intentional. So it was a real beautiful thing to make an analog record. I never thought, I still struggle with thinking I'm not a good singer. And I just have these weird, vulnerable, self-conscious moments. And man, there's no hiding behind any of that in an analog record, So that made me face my fears a lot. And so I'm confident in my writing and stuff like that. But like, there's some women out there that just have the most beautiful vocals in the world. And I just couldn't think about that. And I had to just sing my songs the best I could. So it was a beautiful way to make a record. And that's the way they do it on that label, The Next Waltz. That's the way they make records. And so if you're going to make a record with them, that's the way it's done. And so it was pretty cool. And it was made at a farmhouse. Biggest Life was made in a farmhouse out in the country, out in Texas. And Bad Romantic was made in a loft studio near downtown Fort Worth. So they were made very differently. And so cool experiences for me.
Oh, cool. I said I have a group chat of other musicians and things who are, fans of yourself. And I was like, yo, I'm going to be talking to Summer Dean today. Does anyone have any questions? And someone actually asked a legitimate, interesting question. So this is the first send-in we've had on the podcast. But Chris Dover, who's a brilliant musician in his own right and is also hosting Your Bradford show, he's asked if you remember how many mics we used on the drums on Picket Fence from Bad Romantic because the drum sound is so sick.
Oh, dude, it's doubled. Yeah, there's no way to recreate it with two hands. Yeah, we doubled that. There's a couple of songs. You know what's funny? That's a great question. Is he a drummer?
He's a bit of everything. He's a talented little bastard. It's annoying.
Yeah, yeah. There's somebody in my band like that can play every band better than all of us, But yeah. There's been several my drummer in my band learning all the songs. It was like, I can't. My wrist will not do what's you're doing on. Can you hear me knocking and picket fence? And I was like, well, yeah, it's impossible. We doubled it, and so the drummer did his set, and he would go back and add things to it. So it's impossible for two hands to make sound. And it's so funny when we were doing that, I was thinking, man, when people are learning this song, they're going to be like, world, I can't get this right. And but it's just an annoying thing. But you can't think about the live show too much when you're making the record. You just got to make it sound cool. But but yeah, that's funny. So no, I don't think it was. I don't remember the mics that we had set up. Honestly, when that stuff starts going, I'm off doing another job. When the engineer and the producer are in there, I that's way over my head. When I don't even know when they're doing the big reverb metal sheet that's in this other room. Like I don't know what they're doing. I can hear the difference in the sounds when they're showing me what they're doing, but I don't know why they put certain mics in the room. I don't know.
No.
But I do know that what he was playing is doubled. So if any drummers out there trying to learn it, like, don't feel like you're not capable.
I'm really glad I asked. That's so interesting. It's one of those things where it is kind of a record is a record, and obviously you want to try and do as much of it live, but it's completely two different experiences and two just mentalities that can kind of complement each other, but they just live in different universes.
Yeah, we even change tempos a lot, and I don't have a trumpet player or a fiddle player in my road band. So there's a lot of trumpet and fiddle on my last album. So, or a piano player. I don't have a piano player in my road band either. So a lot of arrangings happen, which makes me kind of want to do a live album. I wanted to do like a live album across Texas and pick some really badass venues and just pick different takes from each show, But just because our live show is so different than the album. But one day I just gotta raise the money.
Yeah. No, awesome. And before I kind of let you go, just to kind of go back to your origins, you talked about how you're like a huge like Johnny and Connie fan and the dancehall sound. Was that what you grew up on, or what did you grow up listening to, and what made you fall in love with country music?
Yeah, I grew up more on Western swing. I know that is a popular lyric, but it's the truth for me. I grew up on Bob Wills and Asleep at the Wheel and Dale Evans and things like that. More like I'm roaming the plains on the wild, wild. My mama listened to all that. And she also liked a lot of just 60s music. So I was raised on a lot of that stuff. My daddy loves Johnny Cash and Marty Robbins. And, that was a part of became a part of my DNA, especially Bob Wills. But, in the 80s and 90s, we didn't really have a lot of ways. The only way to listen to music was on the radio. Records had gone out of style. Cassette tapes were coming in, and CDs. So, and you only bought that from what was on the radio. Like there wasn't a way to know what was outside of your region. And until, now you can find artists pretty easily, like on Spotify and playlists. None of that was a part of stuff as a kid. So as a kid, I listened to a lot of 80s and 90s radio country, George Strait, Rube McEntire, and Diamond Rio, and, all this, just Patty Loveless, Vince Gill, just because that was the only thing there was available to listen to. And then when I got to college, I discovered honky tonk music. That's when I found Johnny Bush and all that. Some of my favorite Texas dance hall bands that don't play outside of Texas Jake Hooker, Amber Digby, Justin Trevino. There's a lot of Jason Roberts. They don't play outside Texas a lot, so I would hear them at the rodeos and at the dances and not know that they weren't like a national thing. It's so big in Texas, and so that's my favorite sound. And I hope that one day I can make it 100% of the time. But right now we're still messing around with with all kinds of stuff.
I think that's the best way to be, is especially like an artist, kind of 2 albums and an EP, and is you not necessarily the sound you want, but it's also the sound you find along the way. But you said you were listening to kind of like Divas and Lizzo and things. What are you currently listening to? Like, what are your favorite albums or artists at the moment?
I don't listen. It's crazy. I don't listen to too much. I listen to a lot of instrumental type things, and there's some new people that I think are really good. I think Zach Top is a new guy that's really good. He's kind of going Nashville. He's going national, not a Texas thing. But if I'm listening to whatever I want to home, it's there's no telling what I'm going to put on. I have no idea. I take inspiration from a lot of different pieces. Just one lyric can spur a whole nother idea in my head.
Yeah.
And so who knows? Like, for example, in Lonely Girls in the Mint, there's a line at the beginning of the chorus, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're 41." And the "oh my God" part came from an Adele lyric. And I thought, oh, how cool that people say that all the time. And oh my God. And I was like, I never put that in a lyric before. That's so good. And it helped me write the whole chorus. And so I just kind of listen to whatever. If I oversaturate it, then I don't want to hate anything.
Yeah.
But the thing that gets my juices going is that Texas dance hall, especially Jake. Jake Hook. He's so good.
No, awesome. So the playlist for the drive with Ags across the UK is going to be interesting if you've got the controls.
Yeah, you know what? That happens in Australia. We have a playlist. We call it Summer Tour playlist. I think it's public on Spotify, but it's what we give the venues to play before our show, so that the venue has the vibe that we want up to our show. And it's a lot of Texas artists on there, a lot of Texas music. And I gave it to a lot of the venues in Australia, and people were asking, what is this playlist? What is this playlist? So that's fun. I might put that in for Ags, but he can also show me some stuff too.
Oh, awesome.
Ags is great.
Yeah.
Excited to meet him.
Yeah. No, this tour is just going to be absolutely incredible. Is there any kind of thing that is either on your bucket list to do, or anything you're kind of really looking forward to coming over and kind of being out of the touristy bit? Because I feel it's a weird one, because you're coming up to my neck of the woods for Birkenhead, and it's a weird place. It's not like a tourist destination. And one of my favorite things is seeing comments being like, why the fuck are you in Birkenhead? And that's like my favorite thing to see. But is there anything you're kind of looking forward to along the way for the UK?
The fact that I've seen a lot of the London stuff, and I'm excited that Ags and I are driving from town to town, because you don't get a lot of that as a tourist. You just kind of see the sights in the cities, So I'm excited to drive around and see. I'm excited to live as a local and to be as a local for a week. So, and I just want to play my songs. So I'm excited for the chillness of, excited to travel from city to city in a car. And that's real simple, but that's going to be cool to me. Like, because that's the version of what I do here.
Yeah.
It's just there, I know what it's like to travel around Texas and stop at the gas stations and get your lunch. And, so what's it like to be a touring artist in the UK for 1 week?
Yeah.
That's what I'm excited about.
Yeah. And you're going to get to drive through Wales, which is one of the best places to drive through. It's gorgeous there. So.
That'll be great. Yeah.
Well, amazing. I think that's probably the best place to end it. And I'm going to see you in less than 10 days, which is going to be fucking epic. I really can't wait for it. But thanks so much for agreeing to come over and joining us on this.
I'm so excited. I can't believe that in 1 year we're going to Australia and the UK.
Yeah.
Like, this is wild. I just want to do a really good job so that I can come back.
Oh, you definitely will. I know people are already going to be wanting you to come over next year as well.
Good.
And that is episode 70 of the Rogue Country podcast in the bag. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for keeping and listening while I've been gone. I've been checking the stats every now and then while I've been, away on hiatus, and it warms my heart to see people actually still listen to this podcast even though we haven't released anything new. It's really been weighing on me that we haven't released anything new, but family comes first, and I've been having the time of my life, and you can have the time of your life. What a segue, with Summer Dean coming over this week to the UK for her very first time with special guest Alex Connolly. 16th of November at Swansea and Hangar 18, 17th of November at Nottingham at the Old Cold Store, 18th of November at Wirral and Gallagher's, 19th of November Bradford at the Underground, and 20th of November London at the Black Art. These are going to be phenomenal dates. You do not want to miss these. If you enjoy the Jesse Daniel shows, if you enjoy the Tommy Prine show, if you enjoyed the Mike and the Moon Pie shows that were in April, if you just love country music, you're going to love these shows. So make sure you come say hi, and as always, keep doing the things you love, keep supporting the things you love, and keep it rogue. Peace.